Alright, good LA property. I heard there was a house around here that was really affordable, and... Oh, it's right here. What the fuck? What a fucking ripoff! $5 million, but now I'm getting the hell out of here. What?
At this point, I've just decided to let you yap your ass off just so I can get you to leave me alone. Anyway, I'll let you rent my place. It's pretty cheap, only $500K a month.
You know, California wasn't always complete shit. I mean, yeah, sure, it's mostly just sand, but it actually is the entire reason you and I are talking right now. The 1920s fucking sucked, contrary to popular belief. In fact, they were actually kind of burning everywhere. I'm going to tell you about it, and you don't have a choice. So to play as the California Republic in this mod, you first have to start as the United States. United States in 1922 fucking sucks. It's a corporate dictatorship under Rockefeller and the Goon Squad, also known as the Board of Directors. Rockefeller wanted to ensure that his rule was secure, so he decided to begin polarizing the American public. However, while he was doing that, he was assassinated, presumably by a socialist, though I've heard rumors about the Rothschilds being involved. Either way, although he didn't have much time to do it, his efforts to polarize the American public worked, as the socialists revolted, even after a successor was appointed. Henry Ford caught contact after that, and Ku Klux Klan revolted too. I saw what direction the United States was going in. I decided America was a sinking ship, so I jumped over to California. However, California was also having a civil war between the Republic and the Pinkerton Detective Agency, for some reason. I noticed that California had this government strength mechanic, which... the less control you have over certain regions, the more debuffs you get. And I'm gonna be completely honest, this is really not a good mechanic. California already had a lot of debuffs starting out, so this was already redundant on its own. However, furthermore, to raise your control, really the only good option was to just spend manpower on it, because the other options meant raising your debt, which California's debt already starts out really high, so that's a really bad option. Especially since it goes up by 10 each time you press it. And another option would be Army XP, which starting out you don't get a lot of. So really the only option is manpower, but that's also not really that good. Mainly just because at the start you really don't get a lot and you have to do your army buffs to get more. Personally, I would just remove this mechanic. After clearing out the encircled divisions in Modesto, I sneaked over to Eureka and was able to defeat the Pinkerton Agency. To make sure they wouldn't be able to do anything again, I decided that we needed to send them to jail. After consulting control over California, we held the San Francisco Congress, and the Republican Party of California under Hiram Johnson remained in power. With power secured, I decided to first focus on the economy. However, at the same time, I also decided that we needed to begin early army reforms, as for some reason we were primarily using militias. Wait, actually, I just remembered, I'm pretty sure the US Army was mostly disbanded in this universe, so actually, yeah, that tracks. I didn't have much time to do much, though, because, as you can see, we have a small industry. When deciding who to give an extra paycheck to, I decided to sacrifice some factory output in exchange for the workers getting the extra pay, since we needed to dissuade them from supporting radical ideologies. I invested a lot into military factories. I decided at that point, we needed to begin taking more territory. The country was already starting to fight again. The corporatists and the socialists on the East Coast had begun fighting, and Oregon and Washington were already at war. So even though my army was small, I figured everyone else had an equally small army, so I was not too worried. Washington surrendered to the Oregon Soviets, and that just couldn't stand. My army was small, but theirs was even smaller, so as soon as I took Portland, the Oregon Soviets surrendered. With the West Coast now secured, I officially proclaimed the Pacific Republic of America. So if it's not obvious at this point, the plan is to reunite America under an actually democratic republic, one that would not fall to the corporations, one focused on the people, a government by the people, for the people. Money making is of course part of the American dream, but it should not be the forefront. So, with the Pacific Republic of America declared, we began building up our forces even more to begin preparing to march eastwards. I was planning on going against the Mormons next, but then the American Liberation Army under MacArthur declared war on me, so I had to put my entire army down there. I'll be honest, this was kind of a piece of shit. I'm pretty sure I was supposed to go against the Mormons first anyways, just so I wouldn't have to do this yee-ass river crossing, but I did. And I'll be honest, it sucked. Hell, in this entire time I'm recording I have on screen right now, I could not cross the river. I had enough time, actually, to just fully get rid of the debuffs you get from the low government strength. With how slow the war was going, I was starting to have some flashbacks to a particular RPG, especially due to the circumstances. Eventually, MacArthur couldn't hold me back any longer, and I was able to finally cross the Colorado River. From there, it was over for MacArthur. It was only a matter of time before I snaked his final victory points and he surrendered. I figured since the borders were so fucked up already, I may as well correct them, and I invaded the Mormons. I figured they weren't strong enough to stop me either, so I invaded them, and eventually I was able to capitulate them. We've now doubled our territory, but the problem with that is that each individual state requires 30 political power to actually get a core on, and political power gain was terrible, so I decided that for a while it would probably be a really bad idea to try expanding more. Now that we were at peace, I had all the time I needed to build up my army industry to prepare for the march eastwards. You might have noticed that I gained access to a banking mechanic, but I'm gonna be honest, it kind of sucks. It's supposed to help you reduce your debt, but there's already part of the economy tree to reduce it, making it pointless. And actually, I think taking a loan, even after repaying it, it hit me with a permanent debuff that decreased my political power gain. I began designing my tank divisions as I want to primarily use tanks when pushing to the east coast, since I figured the other factions probably have better divisions by now. Anyway, I'm assuming I had some sheer fucking riz or something, because I'm not sure how, but I managed to convince Canada to sell me Vancouver. And that focus was a big fucking mistake, because I guess in return for Vancouver, I had to give up 150 political power. This was a huge mistake because I probably could have just gotten it for free in another part of the focus tree. I then finalized my infantry template. I'm gonna be honest though, for a while I just really didn't do anything. I had finalized my tank template, and I was just waiting for my first 4 tank divisions to be deployed. Otherwise, I just kind of didn't do anything. I mean, I just got started on improving the supply situation, but that's kind of it. Again, not much really happened. I connected more railroads and just built more supply hubs, and I deployed my 4 tank divisions. All in all, not much really happened here. Eventually, it was time to begin marching east again. Though now I was on a time limit for some reason. No other faction has this, but California does. I don't know why, but whatever. So now it was time to begin marching east. And most of the evasions went the exact same, and luckily, I have a somewhat interesting way of showing this. While I was playing, for some reason, the William Tell Overture just kept blaring in my head. I don't know why, but I don't know. I guess that would make for a good edit or something. I don't know. But I'm gonna make you listen to it too. You don't get a choice. like that, we had finished the conquest of America, and we were now ready to officially declare the country reunited. The United States of America has been reunited. Democracy has been restored to these lands. The corporations have no say now. America is free. One of the first countries I played in this mod when I first got into it was the American Liberation Army under MacArthur. I had a really good time, but I was really disappointed to find out that he had no post-reunification content, which is actually because he's one of the oldest trees in the mod, but still, I was still disappointed. Well, what do you know? When I checked my focus tree after reuniting the country, guess what? Post-reunification content. My prayers have been answered. While freedom and democracy had been secured in America, most of the rest of the world had fallen to some sort of radicalism, whether it be materialist communism or reactionary dictatorships. We had to make sure that the Americas would remain free, so we formed the Washington Concordat. Next, we decided that Canada no longer deserves to exist. So I decided to give them an ultimatum to join me. I'm pretty sure I lost the footage for this because of it corrupting or something, but they accepted, and I did another focus to Corvair territory. And again, because of presumably footage corrupting, I don't have the footage for it now, but in my focus tree there was a focus to invade Mexico, and I did it. I decided that we needed to secure control over Greenland and Iceland, due to their usefulness, and Iceland would be a valuable military asset. Afterwards, I decided to coup Denmark for some reason, even though they were already fellow liberals, so I don't really get what the point of that was. Whatever. I decided that we needed to secure the southern frontier to make sure European reactionaries didn't try to use that as a way to subvert our democracy. I went over to Guatemala and told them to join Mexico or be invaded. I was going to kill them either way, but they chose peace. I then offered British some industrial concessions in return for Belize. Everyone else in Central America was going to be invaded. Plus, since the Civil War, we lost control over the canal, and I wanted it back. Securing it was a piece of cake. I had a lot more war goals I could pick up from the focuses, but I just did not want to, since most of them involved fighting over oceans, which I just did not want to do. So that marked the end of this campaign. So you might be thinking that the video will be ending here, but you're dead wrong. Something I wanted to do in this video was give general feedback on this path, since I believe this was the coder's first time actually making a proper path for a Hoi 4 mod. So I wanted to give some feedback and just kind of explain what I did and did not like, and suggestions for how to maybe improve it. Just a reminder that the whole point of this segment is to just give feedback so the mod can improve. I love Collapsing World, it's my third favorite Hoi 4 mod. I want to see it succeed, and it can only get better if people like myself point out what's wrong with it, so that way it can be improved in the future and become even better. That being said, here are some things that I noticed while playing this path that I wanted to point out. So first and foremost, as you probably saw in the beginning, the government strength mechanic, I think it should just be removed. I get what they were going for, but ultimately, it's just really redundant. California already starts off with a bunch of debuffs, and they're in a civil war when they spawn. So ultimately, just hitting a player with even more debuffs is just really redundant and not really good design. So I would just remove it. Another issue I had was the whole banking system. I know it was supposed to help you reduce your debt, but I found reducing debt really easy. And hell, part of the economy tree is supposed to literally just get your debt down to 0%. And combine that with the fact that you're already supposed to be spending political power to reduce the debt in the first place, generally, the banking system is just really pointless. In fact, I actually think it's bugged right now, because even though I repaid like the one loan I took, I still for some reason had a debuff for a pending loan that was already paid off. It was hurting my political power gain, and you know what? That was really annoying. So generally speaking, this system I would also either remove or just reform somehow. I'm not sure how it would be reformed though. I think maybe it just needs like to have that political power gain glitch fixed or something. There's probably ways to fix it, but personally at the moment, I just don't know them. So it might be best to just remove this system. Something I think they could change is that at the beginning, it's implied that the Republic of California has its subdivisions labeled as sectors. Yet when America is reunified, it's still called the United States, but it has a different flag. I think because it's a new America, with a different form of government, I think it should be called the United Sectors of America instead. I imagine people of this time period would remember the United States as a corporate dictatorship where everything was miserable. But instead, maybe they could think of the United Sectors of America as, you know, a new beacon of freedom. Again, I'm just suggesting this because, like, at the start, it's implied that the California Republic is divided into sectors, and it was just kind of weird that it goes back to being the United States. So, I don't know yet. It could just be the United Sectors. That's just a suggestion, though. Something I thought was kind of arbitrary was that, for some reason, when California does the focus to get rid of the Pinkerton Agency, they have about 1.5 years to reunite the country before they get slapped with a really bad debuff. I thought that was kind of arbitrary, but mostly because the declare war focuses were just as long as some of the other non-war focuses, which was kind of ridiculous. So I think focuses that revolve around declaring war should be shortened to about 7 days or 14 days. I think the last thing I really wanted to mention was that coring was really expensive. I didn't show it in the video, but I actually had to use my magic powers to give myself more political power to core everything. And that's just because California has really bad political power gain, like at most you get 1 a day. But that's after I spent years getting rid of all the debuffs California starts with. So my suggestion is that instead of just coring the individual Hoi 4 states, you have to reintegrate entire US states, like grouped together. So while like Montana might be split into multiple states in game, collectively you just spent 30 political power to reintegrate them all as Montana. Do the developers of the mod have to listen to any of those points I just made? No. I'm just some YouTuber making a video. In the end, it's their mod, they get to choose what to do with it. I'm just making suggestions so they could possibly improve it in the future. Either way, this was a very fun campaign, even with those issues, and I highly encourage you to check out the California path yourself. Tell me, what do you think of it?